Hey there guys, welcome back. Back from the dead again, I know. Things get busy. So we have some cool stuff here for today. I want to just discuss it first. On the other hand, my package the video was delayed so much because I don't know why, but USPS just had the package for 2 weeks, didn't deliver it. I don't know who's working for USPS, but someone over there is just doing whatever they want.
It'll take them years to sort this out. This is his, now it's yours, and this is hers, now it's his. And for the rest of you,
Anyways, besides that, so I got these here. These are like metally spiky claw things like Wolverine. And the reason why I want to do these today or talk about them is because it's almost Halloween. Yay! My favorite holiday. Halloween's my favorite holiday. You get the spooky vibes, you get the fun costume parties. And you've seen in a lot of movies and monster movies where they have claws or they have other claws like Freddy Krueger or Jason, or even those old classic werewolf movies have these claw things. But how accurate and how useful are they? Because I mean, sure, if I went up and I say stabbed someone in the face with this, it probably would kill them, probably. But how likely are these actually useful? Now let's take these into a real world perspective, for instance, and say these aren't adamantium and indestructible matter. Let's say titanium, because titanium is more realistic. There are a lot of, or depleted uranium, because there is depleted uranium and it's very strong, and same thing with titanium. Would these actually work? As far as medieval era did use these, as seen here. So medieval era, they did use these. Would this in medieval era still penetrate armor? I mean, you'd have to really look for the gaps in armor, as seen here. And again, that's very difficult with something like this, because one, this is very close range. Yeah, it gives you about 4 inches, 5 inches of room for stabbing and thrusting. But in all actuality, when someone has a sword that's this long versus something that's this long, range always wins. Even in medieval era, range always wins. They killed knights by shooting them in the back with 50-some arrows, and it's no different here. So one problem we're going to have here is that range always wins. As far as claws versus sword in any scenario, this is as much room as I get with these. Versus sword, I get, you know what I mean, arm plus sword. Versus this is arm plus claws, which only come out to about 2.5 feet, maybe 3. So again, that's one problem. Another problem is with blocking, as I'll show you here in a bit. Blocking, you probably gonna have to block like this or this, some way to deflect the attack down. You know what I mean? And again, we're talking about real world scenario, not adamantium, but titanium. The problem is you've got this much metal versus something that's this much metal. Again, I'll show you what I mean. So when you're blocking, the possibility of breaking is highly likely as far as clawed or even brass knuckles. Brass knuckles are much worse because you've got metal here, but then you get your whole arms exposed and hand. Versus these, at least these give you some kind of protection because you can use them to kind of block attacks with the length of them. Whereas brass knuckles, there's no protection. Right? If someone has a knife, you're punching with basically just the metal on your knuckles, almost guaranteeing you'll probably break your knuckles too. But the only real protection is on your knuckles. Versus, again, these are just better because they're longer. And even these are better. These are just supposed to simulate, sometimes with claws. We've all seen the movies with werewolves and stuff, where they have these big old claws and stuff. Now, these are a little better too, because they would provide protection for the fingers. So if someone were to chop at your finger, you probably wouldn't get your finger lopped off, but you probably would still break it. Again, real world scenario, not movie physics. It would definitely protect the finger, but it wouldn't probably protect it fully. And as far as weapons of, say, these claws, again, these effectively that were medieval There were medieval versions of this, but it was probably more so for assassination attempts more than straight up fighting. Now, if I have these on, I didn't bother putting that glass on them, but if I have these on here, and again, they don't look bad. They're pretty cool looking. There's like gothic kind of looks. Now, but if I have these on here and I'm attacking someone with a weapon, say a sword or a knife, regardless, my attacks have to be close range, and I have to get them with the tips of these, and they have to be sharp enough to puncture and tear. That's what the range of the attacks would be. If I'm say a werewolf or whatever, and I have to use my claws and slash at someone, I have to be very close range, like less than a foot away. Let's be real here, less than a foot away, and I have to be able to claw and rip them open with these. Versus someone with a sword, they've got that much range, or even a knife. People don't think so. These are like I'd be like touching the person basically. These versus a knife. I have all this range plus the weapon, and that's again about monster movies. People don't realize is I have all this range plus the weapon to thrust and stab. So the Halloween like werewolf and like Michael Myers or I guess the werewolf themed and claw themed like Michael Myers maybe and Jason and stuff like that wouldn't work so with someone who's actually trying to defend themselves, because if we take the movie aspect on, just say a guy with it, I get they're demons or monsters or whatever, but if we take the movie into the realism aspect, you get the attempt of it would be a cool weapon for very close range, but anyone who has some sort of range weapon, even a gun. You think of a gun, for instance. If someone has a gun, they're like say 10 feet away. I have to run as quick as I can, stab them. And you're talking someone, even if it's, let's just say not a gun. Let's say a bow and arrow. Again, even if it's a bow and arrow, I have to run up with these in my hand, go up and stab them, right? They have an arrow. They're just gonna shoot me in the face. So as far as realism goes with these, they'd be probably more for assassination attempts. But let's look at what they can do before we get too much into it, and look at more so if these actually, they look like they would protect your fingers because of the plating, and they are metally. So let's look at out in the yard here what the damage would be, and maybe some of the protection of these. So let's get into that. Oh, if I'm non-movie Wolverine, meaning normal titanium claws instead of adamantium, or cobalt, any kind of hard metal that would really be good for, say, weaponry, you gotta notice right away, if I go to block this, say, at an angle, because it's supposed to be away from me, I have this much metal right here versus this much metal. So you notice the weight of this sword is gonna wanna snap these. That's problem number one. Problem number two here is, if I go to block, say, someone goes to stab and I block, it's just gonna go right through. I'd have to twist them like that, and then hope that the metal doesn't bend. Because another thing is, you can have the hardest metal in the world. If it doesn't bend, it's gonna break. And if it don't bend, and if it does bend, you're talking about it bending around the sword like that, so you get stabbed anyway. Problem number three, of course, is slashing. Slashing, they're going to catch with their blade, whether it be on the edge or on the backside. Now again, this is a smaller amount of metal, this is a larger amount of metal. So you're going to have to get around this whole thing. Same thing goes for stabbing. If I go to stab, if they block, I'm going to catch them here, and it's not going to go very far. Or even if I catch his blade on blade, you're talking going down into your knuckles then, if that's how they block. So that's problem number three with these. Let's get into the other thing though. Like in all monster movies, they grab something to fight the monster. Problem number one is the range. They've got this much range, as you can see, this much range. I have as long as my arm goes, range-wise. Problem number two, this may block a sword attack, but it sure as hell ain't gonna stop it from breaking bones. And again, assuming that these claws, there goes that one, assuming that these claws are claws like this and not coming out of the tips of the fingers, otherwise then you're losing fingers basically, is what I'm saying. So that's problem number two with these. And again, problem number 3 is the range. If I go to slash something, because I'm, say, some kind of monster, I've got as long as my arm. He's got as long as a machete or pirate sword has. You see the difference here? So you see the problem? That's problem number 3. The range difference is so much that even if you are a big muscular monster, the person in the monster movie has a machete that goes this far out and swings this far, versus your swing is this. It's a whole foot difference. That's problem number 3. Let's see how much damage these do, though, to say something. If they were to successfully hit you, say you get stabbed by the Pulverine claws or the monster claws. See, something like that. So I didn't sharpen them, so they're not very sharp. But we're definitely going to do some stabs because they're got pointing to them, just to see what the damage is. Again, the difference is range. See, I had to be this close with the sword, or I could have been clear out over here-ish with it because it's a sword or a machete or whatever. Versus these things, I have to be, this is my range. It's not very much. But anyway, just see how much damage these would do. Oh yeah. Uh-oh. No, missed the pumpkin. Can see they're digging in pretty deep. Again, this is non-movie Wolverine, so these would be like titanium, cobalt, or any hard steel. They dig in pretty deep. They would probably kill you. Absolutely. That's enough to puncture a lung, an organ. Yeah, definitely. Definitely enough to kill you. But here's the difference. You got your machete, because, you know, in every movie they always have a dude with a machete or a gun or something. Here's the difference. See how much further away I am? I'm all the way over here. I'm a good foot away, versus I had to be like here with them. That's, again, the distance problem. Number 2, look at that wound. Sure, I was stabbing multiple times, but one of these stabs equals about 50 of those other stabs. So that's another problem. Again, I forgot to sharpen them, but I probably wouldn't be too surprised if they weren't gonna do that. Again, if I go to stab, you can see the difference. I mean, I could almost just like, oh, maybe not, it's pretty heavy, but it's in there pretty deep. And the difference is I am further away more, but that's probably going clear through someone, versus those, yeah, you're gonna puncture an organ. But I mean, other than that, this is better. So it's not looking good for our realistic monsters so far. Not looking good. Carving. Oops. Try this again here. The difference in the slash. That's twice the length of her Pulverine claws. I said Pulverine. And cut it almost in half. Again, not looking good for a realistic monster. I'm not saying monster movies are bad. They just aren't very realistic. And so a lot of times they're not very scary. But dude with machete, that would have been a dead monster. Whether it be Freddy Krueger, Wolverine, or anything. That'd be a dead Wolverine. Again, oh man, these don't feel good. I already just doing some practice. Like, that doesn't feel good. That's gonna rip my fingers off, but it's for the fans. So I'm gonna have to do, again, I have to be, again, Freddy Krueger, any kind of monster. I'd be this close, versus the other than I could be over here. So this is already, oof. Anyway, this is gonna suck big time. This is gonna rip my fingers off. I'm just gonna do some light ones, because I can tell you one thing. This is awful feeling. This is metal on skin, and even if I wore a glove, it's metal on skin. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Why won't it work? Yeah. Ow. And they broke. I mean, they looked pretty cool, but yeah, that's monster movies, realism-wise, not at all. Because look, I mean, yeah, that's just not comparison. By all means, enjoy your monster movies over this nice Halloween, but keep in mind that Real life monsters would be dead in a heartbeat from A, guns, B, arrows, and C, machete. If you like that video, please consider subscribing. It helps me make more videos and do more cool stuff like this. In the meantime, watch me destroy this pumpkin like a madman because I'm insane. So yeah, again, if you like the video, please consider subscribing and follow me.